Hi everybody, welcome to biology. Today we're talking about photosynthesis. Now what is photosynthesis? Well, this picture tells us something. It looks like there's some sunlight involved, maybe some gases. I see a big plant and some water, but I'll tell you more than that. To start, it's a process where plants provide us, humans, with one, food to eat, and also some oxygen to breathe. Who can do photosynthesis? Well, mostly we're talking about plants, or producers, like you heard about in the energy transfer video. But there are some bacteria, like these that I'm showing you here in green, that can do photosynthesis too. Now, we animals, we can't do photosynthesis. Here's a question to think about. What do you notice about the color of both of these things that are doing photosynthesis? Everything that does photosynthesis is green, and it turns out there's a reason for that, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. So, what do plants need in order to do photosynthesis? One thing they need is carbon dioxide gas. You might have heard about CO2. This is what CO2 looks like to a chemist, and it's the gas that you breathe out when you exhale. Now, if CO2 is traveling inside a plant, it goes through these small holes in the leaves called stomata. Stomata open and close to let gases through, but keep important things like water inside the leaves of a plant. So this cool video is showing us what it looks like to travel through a stomata of a plant into the interior of a leaf. What else do plants need for photosynthesis? Well, you can probably guess from this picture that one thing they need is water. That's why your grass gets brown in the summer if there's no rain. If there's no water, then we can't do photosynthesis, and the plant can't make its food or its glucose. Water enters the plants through the roots, like you can see here. It rains down and the roots soak up water in the soil. It travels up through the stems and out to the leaves where the photosynthesis happens. What do plants need for photosynthesis besides water and carbon dioxide? Well, the last thing they need is sunlight. Plants use the sun as their source of energy. They need this energy in order to break apart the ingredients of photosynthesis, or reactants, and to build new molecules, the products. Where is this light absorbed, though, in the plant? It's absorbed in structures called chloroplasts in the leaves. The chloroplasts look like this, and they contain this pigment, or this dye, called chlorophyll. Now, chlorophyll is the green chemical that makes leaves and those bacteria we saw look green. And it's the stuff that can soak up the sunlight and make use of that energy. So to recap, we've got three things that we need for photosynthesis. We've got light, which comes from the sun and is absorbed by that chlorophyll, the green pigment in the leaves. We've got water, which comes from the ground and is absorbed by the roots, and it travels up through the stem to get to the leaves where photosynthesis happens. And we've got carbon dioxide, the gas here represented with a red arrow, that comes from the air outside, and it travels through these holes in the leaves called stomata. Well, what do we get from photosynthesis? Well, you might guess from this picture, plants make glucose. And that glucose is called, in chemical terms, C6H12O6. That's the formula of atoms that makes up glucose. But glucose is a sugar that plants use as their food. Now, plants use this food for energy to grow, to reproduce, and other types of things. But extra sugars are stored in fruits, like these apples here. and sugars can travel from the leaves where photosynthesis happens out into fruits, which animals like us might eat. So the fruits we eat and other things like potatoes and other tubers in the ground, they're all storage devices for sugars. What else do we get from photosynthesis? Well, we get oxygen gas. Now this is what oxygen looks like to a chemist. It's made of two oxygen atoms bonded together. And oxygen is a waste product from photosynthesis, meaning that the plant makes it as a result. Oxygen can travel through the stomata, those holes we talked about, where carbon dioxide enters, and this is where the oxygen can exit the leaf. There, it goes into the environment, and that's good news for us because we need to breathe oxygen gas, and plants are our source of oxygen. So, why do we need plants? Well, two reasons. I can't use the sunlight outside to make my own food. But if a plant can, and I can eat the plant and the sugars it contains, then I can get food that ultimately is made using the energy from the sun. So the plant is kind of like the middleman helping me get food using the sun's energy. But there's another thought. What would happen if I just kept inhaling oxygen and exhaling carbon dioxide, and there was nobody there to reverse that process or to make oxygen for me to breathe? I'd probably run out. So plants are providing us with food, and they're also providing us with oxygen to breathe. Now, photosynthesis as a process can be represented with this equation. And I'm showing the whole equation to you here, where we take 6 water molecules, 6 carbon dioxide molecules, and we use some energy from sunlight to turn those things into glucose molecules, C6H12O6, and oxygen molecules. That whole process is shown here. Our ingredients are water, coming through the roots, carbon dioxide, coming through the stomata, or those holes in the leaves, and using the energy from sunlight, we release oxygen gas, and look, we have these fruits, or probably, I think, tomatoes, which are food, and they're storage devices for sugars called glucose. So here's the big picture of photosynthesis. We can represent it in a picture, we can represent it in an equation, but now you understand how plants use water and carbon dioxide gas and sunlight to make food and the air you breathe.